Some feline fiendish behaviour in our thriller movie at 5 to 1, Eye of the Cat. That's after highlights of the opening race in the Formula One season from Melbourne.
A year ago, David Coulthard gave way to McLaren teammate Mika Häkkinen in the opening Grand Prix. The Finn didn't look back. A champagne season carrying him all the way to the world title.
Hello there, welcome to Melbourne as we review the first Grand Prix of 1999. We have a new team in Formula One this season. There are 3 new drivers. Some drivers have switched cars as well. But in qualifying in Albert Park, right behind me, it's very much business as usual for the leading players.
The McLarens again set the pace. With just seconds of the session remaining, David Coulthard looks set for pole.
Yes, well done, David Coulthard. Pole position, and I don't think Häkkinen's going to do anything about that.
His teammate launches one final throw of the dice. A superb lap to eclipse Coulthard and put the reigning champion at the head of the field. So, a McLaren front row. The main threat comes from a familiar source. Michael Schumacher produces a typically defiant effort. He's on the limit, even beyond it, as he nudges the Ferrari into 3rd spot.
Oh, Michael well wide there through 4, but got away with it.
But the star of the first qualifying session is Rubens Barrichello, 4th place for the Brazilian, and that's great news for the Stewart team. But his new teammate Johnny Herbert struggles, back in 13th place. For Jordan, Heinz-Harald Frentzen makes an impressive debut, 5th fastest in qualifying. Jacques Villeneuve leading the challenge for Formula One's new team, British American Racing. Both sets of colours on show as the former world champion goes spinning. So this is how they line up for the Australian Grand Prix, the world champions up front. Then Michael Schumacher alongside Barrichello. Frentzen making a good Jordan debut, Irvine 6, Fisichella's Benetton, Ralf Schumacher in the Williams, Damon Hill 9th in his 100th Grand Prix, Wirtz, then Villeneuve in the BAR, Trulli, Johnny Herbert 13th in front of Deniz, Zanardi way back in the 2nd Williams, Alesi 16th for Sauber ahead of the Arrows, Zonta and very disappointing for Panis, Badoa in the Minardi, and all 22 go. Genet given special dispensation to race. There's chaos and confusion in the final seconds before the start. Problems for both the McLarens. David Coulthard's car reported to be suffering with gearbox or hydraulics trouble. And Mika Häkkinen caught up in a cable as he leaves the garage on his way to pole position on the grid. Right, let's see that drama unfold with Martin Brundle and Murray Walker.
Look at the heat haze coming off those cars. Something is smoking. I think it's difficult to see where that smoke's
Johnny Herbert. It's Johnny Herbert Stewart, I think. Anyway, we'll soon know.
And there's an arm up. Somebody's got an arm up. I think it's that smoking car. So start delay.
Start delay. There go the 3 yellow lights, and it is Johnny Herbert Stewart. It's Johnny Herbert Stewart. Out comes the steering wheel. Out comes Johnny Herbert. Smoke pouring out of the back of the car. Oh dear, we don't need this at the start of the first Grand Prix of 1999.
Now, don't do that, guys.
Foam, yeah, that's going to wreck the inside of the engine bay. It's not doing the circuit any good, but on the other hand, they are fire marshals. That's what they're supposed to do. And meantime, of course, this means to say that... and the other Stewart, that's Rubens Barrichello. Well, this is appalling for the Stewart team after they'd done so brilliantly well in practicing. Rubens Barrichello fourth on the grid. Johnny Herbert starting 13th, but he was running third in the practice session yesterday. And I obviously don't know what on earth the problem is for Stewart, but for the same thing to hit them is appalling. Paul Stewart there talking to Rubens Barrichello, who has preference for the spare car. It's set up for him.
Michael Schumacher then fails to get away on the parade lap, and for the restart he's positioned at the back of the grid. Rubens Barrichello in the spare Stewart restarts from the pit lane.
Yeah, Häkkinen in pole position, but as you can see for yourselves, Michael Schumacher is not the top Ferrari. There is Eddie Irvine behind
Lights on.
Lights on, 5 on. Action in Australia, and Mika Häkkinen gets away well. So does Coulthard. And look at Frentzen coming up alongside now. Where is Michael Schumacher?
And
this lot.
And
Eddie
Schumacher
Irvine
still
is in third position, and in fourth place is Heinz-Harald Frentzen as Mika Häkkinen leads.
Schumacher still didn't get away, even from the back of the grid. So he's clearly got some kind of problem that's causing no chance to tip the clutch and get away. And in fact, we've got a Sauber.
And off goes the Jordan. Is that Damon Hill or is it Heinz-Harald Frentzen? It's Damon Hill, I think, because Frentzen is up there in fourth position. It's Häkkinen, Coulthard, Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari is in third position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in fourth place, so he was passed, and it is Damon Hill that's gone off already.
And a Lacey being pushed off the start line. Well, what a dramatic start to the Grand Prix. All looks a bit amateur hour at the moment.
Well, the question now is, can McLarens hold their reliability? The gauntlet is thrown down to Eddie Irvine. This is what the Irishman has been waiting for all his Ferrari career. He started the race, and that's the result.
I think one of the Prosts, I think it was, just nudged the Jordan almost certainly into retirement, I would imagine. So it'd be interesting to get a replay of that blue car. I thought it was one of the Prosts.
Well, whatever, as I was saying, the gauntlet is thrown down to Eddie Irvine now. This is what he's been waiting for all his Ferrari career. He started in front of Michael Schumacher. He won't have to defer to him unless Michael Schumacher can fight his way up through the field and get behind Eddie Irvine. So here we go. It's Häkkinen, Coulthard, Irvine, Frentzen. Behind Frentzen is Fisichella in the Benetton.
3-second lead there for the McLarens at the end of the first lap. Irvine's going to be much more interested in the cars and his mirrors than I think he is the Silver Arrows out front.
Well, I know the difference between hard and soft compound tyres is not all that significant here at Australia today, but to the extent that it is, Eddie Irvine should be benefiting at the moment because he's on the softer compound Bridgestone, which should give him better grip, hopefully to compensate for the fact that his Ferrari doesn't handle as well as the McLarens ahead of him. But with a 3-second lead on the first lap, it really does look already as though Australia 99 is going to be a replay of 98.
Well, Damon Hill is definitely out of the race, so it's his 100th Grand Prix. His lucky number 7, his new number for this season, did not pay off, and Hill out of the race.
So where is Michael Schumacher now? The answer is he's in 13th place. He's past Marc Genet, he's past Zanardi's Williams, he's past Panis's Prost, he's past Barrichello, who started from the pit lane, he's past Wurz and Badeur, and he's now chasing Tora Takagi's Arrows, and it won't take him long. He's 0.2 of a second behind him on the previous lap. I expect him to be in front of Takagi and up to 12th place. There he is. There is Michael Schumacher giving it everything he can in an effort to get at minimum up to the points, because what destroyed Schumacher's championship chances in 1998 was not the Japanese Grand Prix, the last race of the year, so much as the fact that they did not get points scored early on in the season because the McLarens were so dominant. So Michael Schumacher will be fighting to get up into those top 6 places. Louise Goodman is with Damon Hill.
Damon, a disappointingly short race for you today.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a bruising weekend one way or another, so very disappointed. I made a brilliant start and then I got completely, barged out of the way by someone who outbraked.
Who was it nudged you off? We couldn't see properly.
I don't know either. I mean, all I know is I'm turning in and I saw some guy stick his nose right in there, but I mean, there's no way he was going to get through, and there's no way we could both get round to him. He got his front wheel in front of my rear wheel and he tipped me out.
That is Ralph Schumacher in Australia in the Williams as we go round and we get our first on-board shot of the year. Let's stay with this for a little while because I fear we may not be getting many of them. I hope that the Williams is going to be reliable, but this is the only car that we've got an on-board camera on here in Australia as he goes round the left-hander at the Sports Centre, comes up to turn 4. Now through turn 5, the right-hander at 130 miles an hour. Coming up to a very tricky section here, turn 6 and 7 onto Lakeside Drive. Now just listen to that Supertech engine. That is Luca Badoa, the Italian, first drive in this year's Minardi. David is pushing very hard, Mika is pushing very hard. It's testing the reliability of their cars. It's testing, obviously, the stamina of the drivers. Not that there's any problem there, they're both superlatively fit. Meantime, now, on lap 11 out of 58, Eddie Irvine is a staggering 17, nearly 18 seconds behind the McLarens. He's 1.6 seconds ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Frentzen, has got Ralph Schumacher in 5th place. Fisichella is in 6th position. Jarno Trulli, in the very much improved Prost of 1999, has fought his way up to 7th place. He's still ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, who is an excellent 8th in the first race for the BAR. 9th is Pedro Diniz, who is well ahead, of course, of his teammate Alesi, on account of the fact that Alesi never really got the race started. And Ricardo Zonta is 10th, so both the BAR's first race top 10.
And that's Michael Schumacher coming up behind Zonta. Zonta in 10th, Schumacher still in 11th and getting well wide. Zanardi away. He was lapping in the 37s tonight. I guess all they could do is stop and give him another set of tyres as soon as they could get into some kind of strategy fuel stop window for this race. But Zanardi having an appallingly slow... And Coulthard's missing.
Coulthard missing. Where is he? What's happened to David Coulthard? Is this a McLaren out? Mika Häkkinen goes through, and David Coulthard... There's been a big shunt. We believe Villeneuve is involved in a crash as David Coulthard comes into the pit lane there, out of the race. Thank heavens he's obviously all right. This is the first BAR retirement, and staggering into the pits and out of the race goes Coulthard. Well, there we are. That is the Achilles heel of McLaren reliability. Now that means Eddie Irvine is up into 2nd place. Heinz-Harald is 3rd. We've seen one McLaren go out. What about Mika Häkkinen? Can he keep going? This may be the aftermath of that shambles in the McLaren garage just before the race started, when Mika Häkkinen went back into the garage, had work done on his car, got into the spare car, got back into the race car. Coulthard came in.
Well, this is the accident. Look, I think he lost his rear wing, because that's not a driving error. That's a rear wing falling off the BAR. Not the first time this year. Happened to him in practice as well, in private testing, I should say. And that was a big scare for Villeneuve, just minding his own business, flat out, 175, 180 miles an hour, and boom, the rear wing goes. All of the aero is on the front of the car. Look, here it goes. Yes, rear wing falling off, and then a big accident. Somebody doing very well behind him there to miss him.
It's Zonta. You remember Zonta was battling with Jacques Villeneuve. Now, this is the critical point. The safety car is coming out. This means to say that Eddie Irvine and the rest of them will close up with Mika Häkkinen, the race leader.
Safety car in at the end of this lap, so race resumes. You can see Häkkinen backing him up again. This is almost a restart, and he's lost 18 seconds. It's cost him very dearly. Wasn't worth coming in for a pit stop. They're not into a fuel window yet. It's too early in the race, so now Häkkinen's got some work to do. But just before Coulthard packed up, the two McLarens definitely eased off by a couple of seconds per lap. I wonder if they got a message from their pit saying, you know, remember there's telemetry on the cars. The pit knows exactly the temperature and pressure of everything on the car, saying calm down, cool down, because something is too hot on the car. Hackenen's got a lot of work to do with the Ferrari climbing all over his rear wing as they head into the pit straight. Hackenen's slow away. Hackenen's very slow away. And what's happening? They're waiting for a green flag, I think, because they're hovering. And Irvine takes the lead. No, Hackenen's got a problem.
Hackenen's got a problem. Look, so what amazing. He must have overheated, because up into second place goes Ralf Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams is second. High-Tyrrell Frentzen is in third place. Ferrari leads, and Trulli is in fourth place. And Fisichella's got
Frentzen, look, Frentzen taking second. And touch again. That's the front wing gone from the Benetton, and De La Rosa running wide. Barrichello having a second go, and he's got a problem too. Let me tell you what happened on the restart. Hakkinen didn't get away, and Irvine was smart enough to realise he mustn't pass until the start-finish line, which is a long way down the start-finish straight. So Irvine had to hover until they went over the white line. Then he could go for it. Hakkinen had no acceleration, and look, coming through there.
Trulli coming through, taking Schumacher. So he's up into third position behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Michael Schumacher is going to benefit from all of this. And Eddie Irvine is now leading, with Mika Häkkinen still running. Eddie Irvine is leading a Grand Prix in his own right, justifiably. He's done one in the past on tactics and then let Michael Schumacher through, but Eddie Irvine could win this race, and Louis Goodman is with David Coulthard.
David, I guess reliability was always going to be an issue at this race.
Yeah, no, reliability was always a question mark for us, and in the end it's a hydraulic problem. We're not sure whereabouts it lies, but it meant I've lost the drive of the car.
Any idea what's happened to Mika?
I think it's the same problem.
Right, thank you, Louise. Thank you, David, and regrets for you. But meantime, Eddie Irvine is pushing like mad now to get away from Frentzen in second place.
What happens when you lose the hydraulics? The throttle and the gear shift both work off the hydraulic system. It's a fly-by-wire, it's electrically controlled, sends a message back to a hydraulic unit that opens the throttle, and I suspect Häkkinen has got no throttle, and he's cruising in the pits exactly the same way that Coulthard did, and I would think he's just literally little more than idle and fifth and sixth gear to get back, and clearly something in the hydraulic system has overheated, and I think that's why they were backing off the pace. They're going to have a go at fixing his car. James, what's happening?
It sounds like a misfire to me, actually, Martin. I mean, he had a misfire, as you said, on the original race car, which was extraordinary the way he jumped in and out. What a day this guy's had. He's blipping the throttle. They're trying to listen to it.
Well, it
sounds rough to me.
Sounds as rough as old boots to me, and that we wonder if that Mercedes engine will keep going. It's obviously not a question so much of the engine itself as the hydraulic controls.
And you saw Fisichella. They're saying go. We can't find anything wrong. Send him. See what happens. Let's see if that's cleaned it up. But Fisichella we saw going out behind him or passing the McLaren pit. He's had a new nose from that incident you saw on the restart. And Häkkinen back out on track, but doesn't appear to me to have an awful lot of acceleration.
Last, 17th and last. The tables have been turned. Michael Schumacher was last.
No acceleration, Murray. He's out of the race.
Retirement so far. Herbert, Lacey, Hill, Jacques Villeneuve that you've just heard from, David Coulthard. Zanardi has spun on the circuit. We haven't seen any pictures, but I can tell you that he has. And there it is. There is the replay of Zanardi going out in the Williams. Now, is there any debris on the track there? Will we have to have the safety car out again? He tries to restart.
Zanardi having a nightmare restart to it. Here we go, look, running wide in four, whack the barrier, and then car starts bouncing. No way he can control it there, and that's broken the front suspension badly. Even if he got away, he wouldn't go anywhere. Zanardi definitely out of the race. There's a safety car board out here on the start-finish line, but I don't see any yellow flags around the circuit yet.
And here is Häkkinen coming into the pit lane, I presume, on lap 24 to retire from the Australian Grand Prix. And one thing we certainly did not expect to see was both McLarens retiring from the event. I'm not saying he is retiring, but we'll soon see from the way he turns into the garage. So a terrible start for the Woking team in their defence of the Constructors' title of 1998 and the Drivers' title for Mika Häkkinen. No points for McLaren, and Ferrari could well be on a 16-point situation. The safety car peels into the pit lane. Eddie Irvine sprints away. A good restart by Irvine. Frentzen up behind him, Ralf Schumacher, German, second, third and fourth. But it's Michael Schumacher, and Diniz is in fifth position in the Sauber.
Wirtz taking fifth into the first corner under braking. Wirtz outbraking Diniz. So we have Irvine, Frentzen, Ralf Schumacher, Michael Schumacher, Alessandro Wirtz. Where's Wirtz gone? Maybe he drifted wide, because it looks like Diniz is back in front again. But Wirtz must have drifted wide, went in too deep, and so status quo is resumed.
Yeah, I tell you what may be the problem with Alexander Wirtz, and that is that he's been practicing in the car with the new differential braking system at the front. After crashing it heavily yesterday, he's out in the non-diff car. He may not have been completely used to the characteristics, and that is out of the race. Goes number 21, Janae.
And Panis, isn't it?
Is that Panis or is it Trulli?
It's difficult to tell the helmets on those two drivers. We'll have to. We think it's Panis.
Two more. It's Trulli. It's Jarno Trulli, and that's tough. Oh, that's the reason why.
In fact, that's both they're showing Panis is having a return. Until we can see the front of that car or the driver's helmet, it's impossible to tell on that particular car. But let's have a look.
I think it was Trulli who, if you remember, came into the pits, rejoined at the end, and would be trying to fight his way through the field. Comes up to Janae, who was in 12th position. But never mind, that's of academic interest. Yeah, that's what happened. And they nearly collected whoever it was in front of them. That was Pedro de la Rosa's arrows in front of them. They nearly collected. And here is the race. Lap 27 now. Eddie Irvine, it's just about half distance now. And Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari leads Frentzen in the Jordan.
Have you noticed Michael Schumacher dropping back again? He really can't stay with this leading three. He's 2.1 seconds behind. And there's a yellow flag for that incident. I think you're absolutely, it's not often you're wrong, Murray, but you're right again. I think that was truly getting mixed up, trying to come back through the field. So both Prost out on the same lap. Panis retired on that lap, and truly tripping over Marc Gené into the first corner and spinning him out. So both Prosts out of the race. We're down to 12 cars running.
And we've still got half the race to run. I wouldn't be at all surprised if everybody who finishes in this race gets points, which means to say that there would be 6 finishers. Well, there is the answer to your question, Martin. Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, still in 4th place. You're right, he's not closing up on his brother, and that's not for brotherly love reasons either. They respect each other.
That's a sick Ferrari. No, it's a puncture. Right rear puncture for Michael Schumacher. That's why he was dropping away. You heard it banging. I thought it was the engine gone, but now I can see it's a right rear puncture. Oh, that's going to be a job to get that back to the pits without tearing the car apart.
Look at his front wing
damage. Has Michael been off the road somewhere? Almost certainly, I'd say, because that right rear puncture can't damage the front wing in any way, of course. So it looks like Michael's had a trip through the grass, and well, if that tyre delaminates any more, it's going to rip the bodywork away. At the moment, he's getting away with it.
We've got Wirtz going out, Alexander Wirtz on the replay. As in comes Barrichello for his 10-second penalty. So now he comes to his own garage. They used to do it at the end of the pit lane, but he comes to his own garage. They'll count him down to 10.
Look at them trying to blow cold air in. Remember, this car overheated on the line, or the other two Stuart Fords overheated on the line. That's a bit of a token gesture, I have to say, but it's better than doing nothing.
I think they're not allowed to do anything, actually.
Well, they're not touching the car, you see, Murray, but I think that's marginal, that one, blowing air at it, but I don't think it would have done any good anyway. But there's so few cars in this race that are competitive. Barrichello's still okay. And he's got such good speed in that car. If he gets on with it, he can rejoin the fray. Although that's cost him something like 35 seconds. Stop with 10 seconds, plus negotiating the pit lane, of course.
Where are we? Lap 32. Who's on the track? Eddie Irvine. Just 1.8 seconds ahead of Frentzen second. Ralf Schumacher is third. 3 seconds covers the top 3. Takagi in the arrows is fourth. Fisichella is back in the race in the Benetton, fifth. Luca Badoa in the Minardi. Are Minardi going to score a point? It's ages since they did so. Minardi sixth with Luca Badoa. The second arrows of Pedro de la Rosa is in the 7th place. Rubens Barrichello, of course, has dropped to the back of the field, so Zonta is 8th. Michael Schumacher is 9th. Only 10 cars left in this Australian Grand Prix, and the 10th one is Rubens Barrichello, and we have still got 27 grueling, demanding, hot laps to go, including pit stops, and that's going to take the toll. And this is Michael Schumacher. Ralph Schumacher, sorry.
That's Ralph, yeah.
Schumacher.
And I'm just looking, Barrichello lost a half a minute in the end of his last lap, so Barrichello either went off or he's got some kind of problem.
The leader now, of course, is Eddie Irvine. But the 2 Ferraris are still in the race. There's only one Jordan left in the race. There's only one Benetton left in the race. There's only one Williams.
Irvine in the pits. Irvine for what I would imagine is a scheduled stop. They've got some tyres ready for him. Frentzen following it. Jordan reacting to the Ferrari pit stop. Now we're going to see who can turn these cars around the fastest. Obviously, Ferrari have got a head start. Irvine stops well on his marks. And there's the Jordan. They've got to get that fuel in quickly. The fuel flow will be exactly the same for the 2 rigs. Irvine's got the revs on ready, drops the clutch, away he goes, and he maintains position. In fact, the 2 pit stops are virtually identical, and off they go. And who's this coming along?
Fisichella coming through.
Fisichella takes the lead. Does he get into the corner? No, he doesn't. Fisichella stays second, and Irvine maintains the lead. Of course, Fisichella, I think it may have been Fisichella that stopped earlier on in the race under one of those yellows. Fisichella's going to have a go up the inside. Eddie's on cold brakes, and Fisichella wisely braking very early. He wasn't going to make that. So here's a good 1, 2, 3. What an amazing race.
Fisichella has not yet made his official tyre stop, of course. So although he's second in this race, he's going to lose time and track position. But meantime, he's certainly pushing Eddie Irvine. I don't know whether James Allen is in the pit, but we'll keep talking because Fisichella is coming in the Benetton with the Prix. So James is not there, so let's keep going. Fisichella, the fastest pit stop we've had so far was just over 6 seconds earlier in the race. Fisichella rejoins. That means Ralf Schumacher is up into 3rd position again. De La Rosa is 4th. Fisichella rejoins in 5th position. Can he stay ahead of Tora Takagi in the second arrows? Out onto the pit lane comes the Benetton, rejoins the track. And yes, Giancarlo Fisichella from Italy in the Benetton, with, you can see the braking system, see that second row of shafts underneath the top wishbone of the suspension. He's got the new braking system on the Benetton, and he is in 5th position. And James Allen has some Ferrari news.
Yeah, I wasn't at Benetton, I was down at Ferrari examining the tyres that just came off Irvine's car, and I have to say that they look absolutely fantastic. Been performing very well. Schumacher's in.
Schumacher's coming in, James.
The Ferrari team aren't ready for him. I'm standing
very
here.
Slow. He's travelling very, very slowly.
This at all. Huge scramble down here in the garage. They're very surprised by this. He's obviously not radioed to tell him he's coming in. He's gone straight through.
Yeah, he knew they weren't ready, so sooner than waste time with them coming out with tyres, wheels, whatever, he's going to do another lap. But Michael Schumacher's last lap was a much slower one than he's had. It looks as though the double world champion may not be scoring world championship points after all. What a torrid race he's had. Stalls his engine, starts from the back, catches up on the pace car, then he has a puncture, comes in.
I think he's got a clutch problem. Did you hear the engine just rev now? Maybe it's just dropping out of gear or whatever, but there was all of a sudden a big rev from Michael Schumacher's car as he was in the middle of turn 3 and 4. And I wonder if he's got some kind of...
He's picking up speed now.
I wonder if he's got a drive shaft problem from that earlier puncture, but there was... Seemed to be accelerating okay there, but there was definitely a big rev of the engine as Michael was between corners, suggesting he momentarily lost drive.
And we've got 19 laps left to go to lap 57 in this quite incredible Australian Grand Prix with Eddie Irvine now.
Look, he's come in the pit lane very, very late. He wasn't expecting to come in the pit lane on that lap, but clearly some kind of drama coming out of turn 15. Now he's up to speed again.
No, that was a
James,
replay.
what's happening down there, James?
That was a replay of him coming into the pit lane.
Martin, I can tell you exactly what it is. He's got some problem with the steering wheel. He's reporting in that the buttons aren't working. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. He came in to do something about it, and it seemed to clear itself. Now he's not too sure.
Look,
And he's
James, we can see...
He's coming in again now. I think they're going to have a quick look. Check out for the steering wheel when he comes in this time.
We can see there's a mechanic standing there. You may say, why on earth are they putting a new steering wheel on? The answer is that all the electrical and most of the other controls are operated from the steering wheel, and it'll probably have an absolutely magical effect. They'll put a new steering wheel on. If the contacts are all right, provided Michael Schumacher gets up to the pit lane, he's going very, very slowly indeed. Is he going to be able to coast down to the pit? That's the question at the present moment.
I still think he had a transmission problem. It's either the steering wheel put it into a false neutral, or he's got some kind of transmission problem.
Yeah, look at the bodywork at the back.
I don't think that would be affecting too much, Murray, but let's see what they do. They're changing the wheel anyway. Yeah, they automatically change the tyres. That's a given on any pit stop, and he did. So the steering wheel, clearly the flippers are not working.
Very lucky,
and it so that big rev I heard on the previous lap was the button's not working properly. Threw it into a neutral, and now he's got some drive.
Back on song. And Zonta having a look at Takagi. Takagi's driven in 16 Grand Prix last year.
Barrichello through into 5th place. Took it from De La Rosa under braking for turn 3, as we expected, and now De La Rosa very wide there in 4th. There's Barrichello ahead, and the two arrows running line astern.
And De La Rosa's lost a lot of momentum and line there. Takagi closed up on him quite significantly. And Rubens Barrichello fairly streaking away. This is the man in the Stewart who's made the fastest lap of the race so far. And that was on lap 29, 1 minute 32.9 in round figures, in comparison with Mika Häkkinen's fastest lap last year, 1 minute 31.6. So just 1.3 seconds off last year's fastest lap. Quite a long way off the record lap, which was put up by Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Williams in 1997, 1 minute 30.6. At the time when they had slick tyres and not groove tyres, at a time when the cars were aerodynamically more efficient than they are now. But Rubens Barrichello sees a clear track ahead of him. He's on his 44th lap now, and that is the Minardi going out of Luca Badoer. So there's now only 9 cars left in the race. This helps Michael Schumacher a bit, of course. It moves him up. You see, Michael Schumacher may well end up in the points in this race by the fact that other cars in front of him have dropped out. Well, Eddie Irvine has had 3 second places and 11 third places in his career. He may be on his way to a win. We'll see, but now we go for a break. Lap 46 out of 57 in this shortened race by 1 lap due to the aborted start originally. And you're looking at Ralf Schumacher, Michael's brother, first drive for Williams, 3rd place. Ahead of him is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, about 5 seconds ahead of him. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 2nd place is about 5 seconds behind Eddie Irvine. 10 seconds then covering the first 3. A big gap now to Fisichella as you look at Tora Takagi going off in the arrows, exactly where he went off yesterday. Now Michael Schumacher is really flying. He's obviously decided he's got absolutely nothing to lose, and if he goes like stink and catches people, he might just get that 1 point for Ferrari or even more. But as I say, Michael's on a charge. Here's the proof. Look at this. This is a replay. Michael running very wide and sensibly just easing it round.
Yes, he spun there, turn 3, spun there in practice, but managed to keep the back end under control this time and collected it all up. He's really charging for no good reason unless other cars stop, because he's too far behind to collect a point now and share speed.
Get over. It's Eddie Irvine gesticulating at Zonta. Move over. Zonta's holding him up. And Eddie Irvine is seeing his lead over Heinz-Harald Frentzen decrease. Now it was 6.5 seconds, it's 5.7 seconds now. Eddie Irvine is not catching he's caught Zonta, he's not getting past him, and he's getting a bit agitated about it, understandably.
Yeah, it's new territory really for Eddie in many ways. It's coming towards the end of a race in the lead, lapping the back markers, and there's really, as I say, is a new experience for him. Eddie is going to be every right to be very angry about this when he gets out of the car, because he's lost another 4 tenths already on this lap So Frentzen now beginning to home in on him, and that's going to put Irvine under pressure.
There's another blue.
Here's yet another one. So Zonta already in trouble. But as I said, that does nothing for Irvine.
No, but BAR are in enough trouble already. They're appearing before the headmaster in the form of the FIA on the 12th. Did I see a puff of smoke from the back of Zonta's car there?
Yes, you did.
Yes,
but,
I did.
I wonder if Zonta thinks that's Schumacher behind him, because Schumacher's behind him in the race. Now he lifts off.
This is it. Eddie Irvine goes
I think
through.
it's probably his engine's
and he's
gone.
blown up. He's blown the super tank up.
But Schumacher's behind Zonta in the race. Zonta 8th, Schumacher 9th, and I wondered if Zonta thought it was Schumacher behind him, but
very likely.
That's 26 seconds behind. So Irvine there, a lot of damage done, and he's going to be something like 3.84 seconds in the lead at the end of this lap.
But at the moment on lap 51 out of 57, you're looking at Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is 5 seconds behind Eddie Irvine's Ferrari. Irvine looking as though he really is about to win his first ever Grand Prix. And Ralf Schumacher is third in the Williams. Fisichella is fourth in the Benetton. Barrichello is fifth in the Stewart. De La Rosa is sixth in the Arrows. So that's 6 different constructors in the top 6 places. Only 2 cars in the top 7 are the same constructor, and that's Arrows, because Takagi is in 7th place, and Michael Schumacher in the 7th Ferrari, flying as he is, looks as though he's going to finish 8th.
Yes, they pick up now on the 3rd place man, Ralf Schumacher, who's having a bit of a push, 4.7 seconds behind Frentzen. I don't know why he's left it so late if he's got more speed in the car, but Ralf having an extra bit of hard work in there trying to get on terms, but a lot of work to do in a very few number of laps.
As you see, the Ferrari flags are already waving in Australia. He is an enormously popular man. Ferrari, of course, is popular the world over. And it's Irvine, Frentzen, Schumacher, Ralf. Fisichella 4th, Barrichello 5th. De La Rosa still a magnificent 6th for Arrows in his first Grand Prix from Spain. He'll be the hero of Spain. Takagi is still 7th in the Arrows. Michael Schumacher is the last runner, 8th place for Ferrari. And there is the comparison of the lap times. You see that it's been first one and then the other, as Eddie Irvine from Conlig comes up to start his last lap in Australia. And you can see that Heinz-Harald Frentzen is throwing caution to the winds. He's really going for it. But even if he catches Irvine, it's going to be mighty difficult for him to get past.
Yes, I think Eddie's pacing himself to the end now. He knows he's got enough cushion there. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher about to do a new fastest lap of this race. Yes, it is a 32.1 for Schumi. Means absolutely nothing. He's not going to get a point out of a hard afternoon's work. But his teammate Eddie Irvine is going to get everything. There'll be so many drivers on the plane tonight or back in the hotel room thinking, I could have won it, I could have been on the podium, I could have done all sorts of things. But it's going to be Eddie Irvine that managed to go through all of the carnage and all of the reliability problems. He's kept it on the road, and then Frentzen and Ralf putting in on a good show behind him. But you've always sensed that Eddie Irvine, the man you're looking at now, has had them under control as soon as the McLarens disappeared.
Yeah, and the crowd loves it. You saw that mass serried rank of Ferrari flags waving enthusiastically here in Australia. Melbourne is indeed a great place for a race, and it's been a great, memorable race, full of incredible memories from Ferrari, from McLaren, from the rest, but particularly as Frentzen eases up on a cool, in-charge Eddie Irvine, particularly for the
Very
Irishman.
cool, Eddie. It looks a touch too cool for my liking.
He's down to the last corner. It's going to be mighty, mighty close, but Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari just wins the Australian
Keep going, Eddie, the line's there. That's it. Well done.
Fabulous. Eddie Irvine, look at Ferrari. Nigel Stepney, the chief mechanic there, is overjoyed. Of course they are. Ralf Schumacher. And I was wrong about Eddie. Up goes the visor. Out comes the fist. Oh, well done, Eddie Irvine. Yes, you've done it. And what is more, Eddie... Oh, yeah, he's giving it a wheelie just to prove that there's plenty left in the car and him. And Eddie Irvine has done it of his own volition and by right. He beat Michael Schumacher. Eddie Irvine won, Frentzen second, Schumacher third. But what a wonderful picture this is. The world champion twice over, Michael Schumacher, looks across at his colleague, his teammate Eddie Irvine, grins at him, waves his hand and accelerates away.
Look at the Ferrari flags, Murray, down here. There's been a track invasion down here on the start-finish line, and a tremendous sea of red flags. You're just coming into your view now.
Yeah. Give it to me, says Eddie, to the Ferrari mechanics, and they do it. So, to summarise the Australian Grand Prix, a result we didn't expect as they come out on the podium. Eddie Irvine, the winner in Australia. Heinz Harald Frentzen, and what a welcome they get from the crowd. Heinz Harald Frentzen second on the left, and Ralf Schumacher on the right in third position. And now we're starting all over again. It's champagne time in Australia.
Well, these are fantastic moments for Irishman Eddie Irvine. His finest hour in Formula One, and when all that fuss had died down a bit, Eddie spoke to Louise Goodman.
And to win your first race here, where there's so many Ferrari fans, where there's so many Paddies, and even there's even Ulster flags out there as well, you know, which is great. This was like a home Grand Prix nearly. You know, I've been to Australia a few times. The reception I get here is fantastic. So they've done it here, the first race of the season, and to win in Ferrari, it's mega.
What is it about Australia? Why do they love you so much here?
Because a load of Irish convicts here, I think, from years ago. I don't know. I think they like living, you know, there's the same principles on life that I have, maybe. You know, the good thing is there's young drivers maybe seen today and they realise you actually can win races and enjoy yourself at the same time.
But it's been a long time coming.
It has, but, you know, there has been opportunities in the past where it could have happened. It didn't because of team orders, so that's the situation. But at the same time, if I hadn't have been here, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to win today. So, you know, all comes to he who waits. And, you know, Michael did all the pre-season testing, made the car reliable for me, and I get the glory, which is great.
I would like to say congratulations to Eddie, because he did a magnificent job, and finally he got his first victory in. I mean, all the team is very happy, so am I. Even so, it didn't work for me today, but I mean, that's racing.
It's a fantastic day for Irish motorsport. I brought Eddie from Japanese Formula 3000, where, you know, he had his ups and downs and problems initially with Senna, and latterly with you know, playing understudy to Michael, which I thought was beginning to annoy him somewhat. Today has just been remarkable. I don't want to take anything. Jordan was second, but today is Eddie Irvine. It was fantastic.
And Harold, it was really a day to get a result today, and you got one.
I'm very pleased, together with Jordan, Moog and Honda, to have 6 points here in the beginning of the season. Very important for us. I think the season is very tight. Everybody is gearing up, and this 6 point, nobody can steal us.
A difficult day, but that was for all of the drivers really, and we picked up a good strategy, but it was pretty similar to everyone else's strategy really today. Thought we had a very good balanced car for the race, and well, I'm pretty pleased.
Rubens, you'd never started fourth, and I know that was you had high hopes for today's race.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely a good hope, because starting fourth with in Melbourne, knowing that everybody had doubts about reliability, even us, it was a race that we could have won it. And then looking back now for the race, for the pace and that we had, for the overtaking maneuvers that I had, I could have won the race. It was unlucky. Unlucky as well to have started last in the pit, because you know, the other car was even better, I thought.
Here's the first of the losers.
Come on, Maggie, EJ. I thought I'd never be happy again.
It's great to win in Ferrari. The first race to win in Ferrari is like, it's different, isn't it?
Does that make it that much more special?
Well, I don't know. I never won anything else.
So Eddie Irvine first away in 99. Frentzen getting early points on the board for Jordan. Ralf Schumacher puts Williams on the podium. Fisichella getting 3 for Benetton. Fifth, a super effort by Barrichello after all his problems, and De La Rosa making his point on his F1 debut. And if you look at how the team stand, just look at the right of the caption. No joy there for McLaren. OK, let's get a considered view of the Australian Grand Prix now from Martin Brundle.
Well, what an unpredictable Grand Prix result. McLaren definitely had the pace in the early stages, as you saw, but not the reliability. They dropped the ball, and Eddie Irvine most definitely picked it up. His cavalier attitude and his relaxed approach definitely was exactly what he needed. He had the legs of Frentzen in second place, Ralf Schumacher in third, and really controlled the race very, very well. A well-deserved win. Eddie Jordan's team in second place, making it a very Irish day. I was also pleased with De La Rosa in the Arrows in sixth place. His first Grand Prix and his first point with a good solid drive and good pace through the mid-race especially. Fundamentally, the Arrows was a 98 car. Given all the reliability problems, maybe some of the other teams were wishing they'd got their old cars here.
And here's your complete rundown. Irvine, the winner. Frentzen and Ralf Schumacher. Fisichella, fourth. Barrichello, so determined, for fifth. De La Rosa, sixth on his Arrows and F1 debut. Takagi in the second Arrows. Michael Schumacher a lap behind, but driving the fastest lap and the last finisher. Zonta's BAR completing 48 laps, then Badoa. Wirtz had suspension trouble. Denis gearbox failed. Trulli-Angenet crashed. Panis went around the same time. Häkkinen's throttle went. Zanardi spun. The McLaren's hydraulics finished coulthard. Villeneuve spectacularly losing his rear wing. Hill hardly got started, and Herbert and Alesi didn't. Right then, let's get Tony Jardine's view of this remarkable Grand Prix. First of all, Tony, the McLarens, should they have used the 98 car?
At one point there was a plan under consideration to use the 98 car with some 99 bits on it because they weren't happy with the reliability of the new car. I thought Ron might take up that plan because he could have kept a nose ahead and then perhaps used the new car in Brazil, but ultimately they wanted to test the car, and this is the result, unfortunately, a very fast failure.
What did you make of all those problems the McLarens had before the start?
I think that this was, as you can see here, looking at Häkkinen in the garage, this was quite a surprise. One was related to Mercedes, and then the throttle linkage in there, which is mechanical and going into the spare car. The problems were caused by the fact they only had a limited amount of time, you see, to get out before the pit lane closed. That was still left attached in a panic, which is uncharacteristic of McLaren, which then brought the big gantry down on the heads of the people inside, but they were against the clock.
Would you expect a debrief on that incident?
I would expect a massive debrief on everything, because over these next 5 weeks they're going to work on reliability. They want to try and produce a bulletproof car. It's very, very fast. It's a fabulous car. It just lacks reliability.
We left Michael Schumacher stalled on the grid in Japan in November. Same again here.
Deja vu, I'm afraid so, yes. And that time they were also saying that there wasn't enough ice had been packed into the radiator. There was the clutch getting hot, the electronics getting hot, exactly the same as in Japan. And reputedly, a mechanic was sacked over that affair in Japan. And then we saw Michael climbing over the curbs, this high-speed puncture on the right rear. Also affected was his front wing as well. Had he been pounding the Ferrari over the curbs, we don't know.
I don't think Ferrari have sorted out those Bridgestone tyres yet, have they? But at least that opened the way for Eddie Irvine.
Yeah, it did, and against the odds again, Eddie Irvine, you know, against the run of the contract, shall we say. But after the big crash with Villeneuve, his rear wing had failed, they cleared that out came the safety car, and off they went as soon as the safety car had gone. Look at Eddie out dragging the already faltering McLaren of Häkkinen. Ralf Schumacher briefly up into second place ahead of his countryman there, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And Frentzen jumped him again to get back into second place, but Irvine never looked back. You know, the best thing about today is he's put his CV out to everybody saying, look, I want to be a team leader. And he's been so close before. You look twice in '97, he nearly won. He was leading in Japan, and then he had to pull back and give the win to Schumacher. He's saying, I'm going to be number one.
Just sum it up, Oz. The Australian Grand Prix.
Well, I think it was a typical new car start to the whole thing. It was the most bizarre race I've seen in a long time. There was debris everywhere, there was cars failing everywhere, but we had an absolutely fabulous motor race, and it's back to 0 points for everybody, for the main championship protagonists from Brazil.
And of course we will go to Brazil in 5 weeks' time. Sorry about the gap, not our fault though. Qualifying and the race live on the weekend of Saturday and Sunday, April the 10th and 11th. Well, this has been Clean Up Australia Day. There's a fair amount of debris to be removed from Albert Park, but Eddie Irvine has polished them all off here. He's top of the podium at last. Good night.
If you would like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by F1 Racing Magazine is www.itv-f1.com.
You may like to know that the official ITV Formula One Grand Prix guide is available, priced £9.99 in bookshops now.
We've late night.